would you say like when it comes to like Mike being a virgin, right? Would you say like ideally in a perfect world, that is what would be best for both sexes?
Yeah,
Where they're both naive, they have no knowledge of sex, and they get married, and then they do their thing and figure it out together, right?
Well, that's my main problem with the prohibition. Like I understand the functionality of the practice, and I understand like being 29 years old and being a virgin is like that's Tim Tebow level like discipline.
Yeah.
So I told Mike he's my hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Not easy.
So hear me out. I understand that and I respect that because you have convictions. So that's self-control. So you have respectability for being able to do that. Now, I also see the realistic side of it, saying that like today, that kind of prohibition is really kind of untenable in this society. To be able to like most like in our ancestral past, right up until recent times, really right up until like the mid 60s during hormonal birth control. The average age of first marriage back in 1965 was 19 for girls and 22 for guys. So to ask a guy and say, hey, you know what? You're probably not going to get married until you're 35 and don't touch your dick until that time. Yeah, that's from an evolutionary practical sense.
That's a thing for masturbation anywhere. I mean, I don't know where that comes in. Like,
do what you got to do.
You want to
actually, there's nothing in there
that says do something. You can't just sit around.
Well, what people will. But you know what Christian women will say is, well, that's sexual immorality because you got to eat.
Oh, we're going to get into that because we're going to get into that too.
Well, I just say I understand the conflict between the tenability of being able to eat ham or being able to stay a virgin until you're 29 or being able to, because in our evolutionary biological past, most people were reproducing by the time they were 15 or 17 for most of human history. And now we think it's still going to be okay because the Holy Book says stay a virgin until you're married. And then now you're 35 or 40. Then you get to Lolo Jones, who is freezing her eggs because she's this side, I think she's 40 now, and just on TikTok or whatever, just bawling her eyes out because she has faith. If she's for real, she's there saying, I'm still a virgin. I'm freezing my eggs because I want to have babies, but I still can't find the right dude. And hopefully God's going to, push him and make him come onto my doorstep pretty soon. Right. But we're now at the point where she's got to freeze her eggs because she's going to, and once she gets to be menopause, forget it. She's done.
Yeah. Because I think I'll say like in theory, right? Because I think you said this before, like if people like if we lived in a society that didn't promote the sexuality that we did now, then yeah, ideally in a perfect world for both parties, it would be better if they were just virgins before they got married because they had nothing to.
The data shows it too.
Yeah, like they have nothing to go back on to say that it was a bad experience. You know what I mean? Like they're first, they have nothing to reflect it, like this one sucked or not. So I could see that. So that would support that aspect. But I agree. We in the society, in the culture that we live in today, even if Mike is the only virgin male in the world, the odds of him finding a woman that's that meets his standard and requirements and also being a virgin, yeah. That's like worse than you trying to find like a girl finding a guy that meets all the 6'6". You know what I mean? Like it's rare. It's gonna be more rare for Mike to find what he's looking for than the girls too, right? But
and I would just view it as the morality and the following what God ultimately has designed us to do. It's a narrow path. It's not supposed to be easy. And cultures change over time. I'm pretty sure during the height of Rome, that culture would have been really hard to deal with it as well. So I think, Christianity is not supposed to be easy. And you're supposed to look weird to culture. If you're fitting in with culture and just bending the knee to culture, where's your convictions at? Where's your backbone in that? So yeah.
Hey, I got to read this real quick. Jesus talks about lusting after women as being the same as adultery, right? If you lust after a woman or look at a woman with lust in your eyes, and therefore you've committed adultery with her in your heart. I've always kind of come back to that scripture because it's like, that's to me, when I read that, it's like, there's nothing you can do as a guy. You're fucked. You're screwed. You're always going to look at it hot. And you're going to go, well, you know what? I kind of want to tap that ass.
We talk about that.
Yeah. Now you're done.
We talk about that whole chapter in Matthew is kind of aimed at Jesus is showing that the law is unattainable.
Yeah.
And that you
Exactly.
need him. And so that's, you know, that's part of it. The other part of it is he specifically says adultery there and not fornication.
Fornication?
And so if you look at the technical definition of adultery,
Is
that would be
fornication
lusting
mentioned in
after a
the-
married woman.
Yeah, it's a man lusting after or having sex with a married woman. That's technically
Is
the
the,
definition of
is the
adultery.
term, and I hate to get legalistic about this, but is the term fornication anywhere in the Bible?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, well, the sexual immorality, and that's like the blanket covering for fornication, having sex outside of wedlock, and then
the Greek is fornication. It gets
yes.
transferred into sexual immorality. Because yeah, I was digging into this too. If it was like, are they translating adultery into fornication? They are not. In the New Testament, like Paul uses specifically the term fornication.
Now, isn't the word like the word Greek word like porno or parno or like pornino, something like that? I think like yeah. I don't have my Greek to English back right now, but